Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Higher or Lower, brought to you by Spreadex, Sporting Index and oddschecker. This is the show where we preview this weekend's football across the Premier League and the Championship, looking at the spread betting markets provided by Spreadex and Sporting Index. I'm your host, George Elek. As ever, I'm joined by Jack Wright on my left.
Hello.
And Dan Worth from WhoScored isn't here. He's in Australia, so he can't gloat over Reading's massive result of drawing 1-1 with Oxford on Tuesday night. But he is replaced by Sam Tighe, who famously loves spread betting markets, especially bookings.
Yes, and I've been told to say, up the Reading, or something like that. Up the Royals. Up the Royals.
Up the Reading.
Up the Royals.
Up the Reading.
I think up the Reading's better than up the Royals.
That's made me so happy. Up the Reading. There you go, lads. You've heard it here first. Up the Reading. We're going to start today's show with Nottingham Forest versus Tottenham. We're going to get straight into it because we've got a packed show this week. And Spreadex have Tottenham as favourites. This is the Supremacy market here. So the amount of goals that the favourites beat the underdog by. Tottenham, unsurprisingly, the favourites, despite being on the road here. The midpoint is 0.8. So this means that if Tottenham were to win by a solitary goal and you were to buy at 0.8, it would be 0.2 points profit. If they were to draw 0-0, for example, 0.8 points loss, and so on and so forth. So for the purpose of the game, higher is a Spurs win, lower is Forest or draw. Everyone ready?
Yep. Yes, we are.
3, 2, 1. Jack out on his own, getting against Ange Postecoglou's Spurs. What is wrong with you, mate?
I'm on a tree limb there. What is wrong with me, mate? Yeah.
That was Ange, wasn't
I know.
it?
Yeah. I know. You don't call me mate.
I'm not doing the character assassination of Ange Postecoglou that was on a big UK podcast a couple of weeks ago. Oh. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
I saw that.
It was weird, wasn't it?
It was a bit odd. Anyway.
More of that, less of this. Just going with Forest here, or the draw as well, of course, on side. City Ground, Friday night. All the makings of a cracking game, this one. But I just feel that Forest have kind of... Steve Cooper was close to the edge, I'd imagine, as far as his job was concerned. I just think he had to dig deep and revert a little back to last season's type last week. Decent draw, credible draw against Wolves. And we know they are strong traditionally at home. 10th best home record in the Premier League last season. Started off pretty well this season. 5 games unbeaten. Obviously lost the last 2. So they need to go back. And I think they are going to go back to how it was successful for them previously. Spurs' big win last weekend. And I wonder how much of that was the fact that they just took advantage of a Newcastle side running on fumes rather than them being particularly exceptional. We'll wait and see which way the one pans out. I know the squinty look that you're giving me is Spurs were great, and you're not going to tell me that they are. But we like a fun on a Friday situation, even without Dan being here. Forest beat Sheffield United on Friday night at the start of the season, and only one of their 2 home wins so far. But Spurs have a 25% win rate on a Friday night. Yes.
That sounds like a small sample. So 25% normally means there's only been 4.
No, absolutely not. No, they've won 3, drawn 4, lost 5.
Okay.
On a Friday. That's their worst day of the week to play a game in the Premier League.
Do you think that has any relevance to this?
Absolutely.
Do you actually?
No, I don't. But you like an irrelevant stat, so I like to end on an irrelevant stat.
I like irrelevant stats because I like to pick them apart.
Yeah.
Fine.
So look, it's you're going to tell me that I'm talking absolute poppycock.
I get your feeling on Nottingham Forest City Ground under the lights. It does have that feel to it. I think the pattern over the last 18 months has typically been that Forest at home, very, very strong. And in this sort of situation, you would back them. But the pattern for the last couple of weeks, or the last couple of months, maybe hasn't been like that. And, rightly or wrongly, I'd go with wrongly, Forest seem incredibly dependent on one particular player being fit in Tighe Awoniyi, and he's not fit. And they don't seem to do very much without him. And I hate that the analysis is that black and white, but it kind of is. Like, if he's fit and they're at home, they could easily win this game. If he's not there and they're on the run that they're on, I don't really have a lot of faith in them. And that's the reality of it.
I've also been so impressed and surprised by the way that Spurs have basically defended despite the injury issues. And I know that they went on that poor run, which came to an end against Newcastle, and you look at the kind of bare results, it doesn't look too impressive. But I actually think they played so much better in those games, and their results suggested that they did. And it saw them kind of tail off from top of the table to kind of falling out the top 4 altogether. But you think back to the City game where they got that impressive point, drawing City 3-0. think about the West Ham game where they should have been like clear in that game before conceding twice late on. Like the
I think they
performances
got
were still
unlucky against Villa as well.
And against Villa.
Truly
that first
unlucky.
half, they completely, So I don't think Spurs' performance level has dropped as dramatically. Like it fits so neatly that against Chelsea they had the red cards, they had the injuries, and like they lost key players, and that seemed to be the catalyst for a dip in form, which is understandable. But I actually just don't think the performances have got to work. It's not as you say it's not as black and white with Forest. I don't think it's as black and white with Spurs. So I think Spurs are still one of the best teams in the league, and it's it's an attractive one because they're obviously heavy odds on to win the game. So looking at because the line is just under the solitary goal for the Supremacy. If it was 1.1, it would be a tougher one to go higher for. But yeah, I'm with Spurs here. Time of first goal now, looking at the same game. So still Forest against Spurs. This is the time where the first goal is scored. So 32.5 is the midpoint with Spreadex. So if you were to go lower here, that means you think there'll be an early goal, ideally in the first half an hour, although you do have 2 minutes after that. And if you go higher, you think the first goal will come later than that. So time of first goal, higher or lower, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I mean it does happen, this, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because when they are related, and therefore you'd be understandable if you think Forest gets something out of the game, then it might be because it starts quite cagey. Yeah,
and I think that's how he's going to set it up. Part of the reason I went with siding with Forest in the draw earlier is the fact that I think that Steve Cooper, they have been on such a bad run that he's going to go, right, we need to keep in this game, we need to make sure we're tight. It's very similar to, if you remember last week, I did a similar scenario with Crystal Palace against Liverpool. Roy Hodgson kind of back to the wall and went, right, we're going to go and keep in the game, going to keep it tight, and then look to try and work from there, use counter-attacks, etc., etc. So I can see a similar pattern here. So they did look like they'd changed back to a similar system to last season against Wolves last week, and that was against Wolves, where they went to a more compact and tightly packed defence and said, right, you're going to have to try and break us down. And I see that being the similar pattern this time round. They ranked 5th for expected goals against at home and conceded as well, joint 6th as far as that's concerned, as far as actual goals are conceded. So they do tend to have the ability to keep it quite tight at the City ground, where they obviously have a vociferous support to back them up as well. And so it should be a cracking atmosphere, should be a cracking game. And I think they say they'll want to keep in it before they then look to try and possibly nick something from it rather than anything else. But low block, keep it tight, keep it cagey, and go from there. At home this season, 4 out of the 7 have seen higher with an average of 32.14. So the averages actually support the opposite of what I'm saying. But
perfect. There we go.
There's been a quite astonishing number of goals in the first 10 minutes of Forest games recently, though. And I appreciate what you're saying about the recent switch, which may change the picture. But then you add in the Spurs element, who just go and play super expansive, super open, crossfield passes, stretching you out, pulling you around, and they just go for it. Those two things combined, that's why I went lower. I can certainly see an early goal in this, because not only do Forest quite consistently have an early goal, either for or against, in their games. I think last 5 games that they've played, this basically would have come in 5 of the last 6. The Spurs adding into that, I'm pretty comfortable with lower.
Funny you say that. I was going to say I'm not comfortable with either of my selections, but the way I see
what are we doing here?
The way I know,
let's get someone else in.
I know. Well, next week maybe. But no, the way I see it is that I'm predicting, because that Tottenham are going to be and playing that style of football, that's going to dictate how Forest approach the game. Yeah. And it could all get blown out of the water.
So the question is, can Forest actually do it?
Exactly right.
And you have faith and I don't.
Yeah, basically.
You have faith. You have faith.
It's, I mean, the thing that sticks in my mind the most about Spurs, I think, this season is how fast they start. Like, even in games where they don't get anything out of it. Like, you think back to the Chelsea game in particular, that 10-minute spell where Chelsea couldn't live with them. Against Villa, as you mentioned, they came out of the trap so fast, and that game could have been 2-2 after 10 minutes.
Well, Udogie missed a one-on-one after 5 minutes. Kulusevski hit the post in the 3rd minute. Like, it's just chaos in the first 10.
And I think Postecoglou quite clearly, there are some managers, Pep is certainly one of them, where it's like, okay, look, we'll kind of ease our way into the game in terms of the way that we attack. With Postecoglou, it's like, let's go and get a goal on the score on the sheet immediately and take the game to them straight away. So
Average of 21.5 away from home.
Look at that. 11.5 point, 11 point.
Yeah, 11 minutes breathing space. Easy.
Yeah, perfect. Right, into the Championship we go now, and you won't find a bigger rivalry than this one. A rivalry renewed after a few seasons apart. We're going to the East Coast, where Ipswich take on Norwich at Portman Road. So not quite the coast, but you know what I mean. Jack here, disclaimer, Norwich fan, so ignore what he says. We're looking at the total goals market here. Total goals, 3.1 is the midpoint. So it's a high line, 3 to sell, 3.2 to buy with Spreadex. So with 3.1, it means lower. You are getting 3 onside as well as 2, 1 and 0 for the total goals in the game. Higher would be 4 or more. Seems high. Let's see how we go.
It does.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, well, this is getting boring.
But then, I mean, in fairness to you, all the stats, and I can't, so anyone who's tuned in wanting to know the weather, as we have done in the recent weeks, or wants to hear some, I mean, my internet is down basically, so I can't run off the results I want to run off, so I'm hoping you've got them there, because the stats alone would definitely back you up here in this being an overs.
Yeah, there's going to be lots of goals in this game. Anyway, over to you, Sam. Look, we're talking about a side here riding the crest of the wave. We've got a manager in that's galvanised the club. He's performed exceptionally well. He's landed his style of football. Impressive stuff, scoring loads of goals.
And what about Ipswich?
And they travel to an Ipswich side. You've worked with me too long. You've worked with me too long. No, look, absolutely sensational from Ipswich. I know you were very confident and bullish about them at the start of the campaign. I thought they'd do well. Not as well as setting records.
The amount of Norwich fans tweeting us at the beginning of the season being like, what are you talking about? Came second in League One?
Sorry
Why are they going to... Yeah, it's all right.
I couldn't help myself.
It's all the burners.
But yeah, look, Ipswich have played sensational football. They were great in League One last season. Could they do it again in the Championship? Absolutely they can. Scoring goals of the season week after week. And what I like about him is obviously... Look, did I say that? Well, we'll come on to Birmingham later.
We actually did we
what
nearly just sit
what I like
when he
about
said that?
them as an analyst is that
Right. He's an analyst now, is he?
Kieran McKenna.
Don't let Joey Barton say that.
Yeah, sorry. How dare I? But no, he's got a cool, calm demeanour, hasn't he? And he's brought that into Ipswich. He's got the support fully bought into what he's doing, and the players bought into what they need to do and delivering it week after week after week as well. And they quite regularly go a goal down or concede goals in games, and you go, well, don't worry, we're just going to continue playing our way and go and then dominate a game and end up winning it as they did in midweek as well. So as far as Norwich are concerned, it's kind of confusion, it's disjointed, it's players playing out of position, it's throwing stuff at the wall and hoping some of it sticks. And they're error-strewn as well, which is just an absolute recipe for disaster. Bearing in mind that most of those errors tend to be in like the defensive third. So it could and should be absolute carnage in this one, to be honest with you. You look at Ipswich, say they set that record points total after 21 games, which was then beaten by Leicester the next night. But top scorers of 45 goals so far this season. But they have conceded 26, so they do concede. But, you know, when you're scoring nearly twice as many as that, it's not a massive problem. And I think they could have a field day in this one. Norwich have scored and conceded 37 goals. Only the top two have scored more, and only Rotherham have conceded less. And I think my case rests there. Please take over.
Well, yeah, I mean, I totally, you know, in terms of a stats pick, this is clearly a game which screams goals, and that's why the line is pretty high. And I personally, with my own money, wouldn't be selling at 3, which is the Spreadex sell price, because I do think there's a possibility that this could go crazy if there's an early goal, or if Ipswich come and basically decide that they want to, you know, when you consider Norwich went to Plymouth Argyle and beaten 6-2 on the road, like there is scope for this to go wrong. But on the balance of probability, what do I think has a higher than 50% chance? 3 or fewer, or 4 or more, and I think it's the former. And part of that is because it's a derby.
Yeah.
Like I think games like this, where there is such intensity, it never really unravels the way that a normal game does. Like I don't think Ipswich will be able to do what they normally do. Yeah, but in the same sense, I think Norwich, you know, because a win will mean so much to Ipswich fans. We know that they are a side under Kieran McKenna who, when they go ahead, continue to go forward. Is that still the case against Norwich, where they know that 3 points is just an absolute must? Like a 1-0 win against Norwich is far more important, I would say, than going in 1-0 ahead against I don't know, a Birmingham and thinking like, well, hold on here, we're by far the better side and we can press on. So, in the same way that Dan often sits here and just says, I just think it's going to be lower. I just think it's going to be lower, basically, despite being fully aware that the data doesn't back me up.
You have to remember here that most of the goals that you're quoting happen over the course of 90 minutes in a football game. But in every derby, the first 20 minutes is just people running into each other. No football happens.
Yeah.
Norwich do that most of the game, actually, 90 minutes.
So really, you need to assess this goals market over 70 minutes of actual football, because after the first 20, it will all calm down and someone will get their foot on the ball. So really, you're asking for 4 goals or more in 70 minutes of football, and that's why, in the end, I went lower. I just found, George, if the
also, I would say, given that we're expecting a lot of fouls, a lot of stoppages, like the ball in play time, this is getting a bit nerdy now. It's probably going to be lower. I'd love to know ball in play time in derbies compared to normal games.
Yeah, I think it will be very cagey and very scrappy, and that will not be conducive to goal. I mean, it might in the end of the game, it might end up unravelling, but early on, I think it's a big setback for this kind of thing. And the line is just like, if that was 2.9,
higher,
you'd go higher, and so would I. It's just a slight difference there. That the fact that you can squeeze 3 in here on lower is.
Well, if you think like how many goals to be scored in this game, fixed odds market 3 is probably the favourite, isn't it? Yeah. I would guess. So it's a big swing. Anyway, I mean, it's going to be a cracking game. I would recommend, even if you're someone who watching this who doesn't normally watch EFL football, I would say this because I love it. But this will be a cracker. You've got an Ipswich side managed by Kieran McKenna, who, I personally think should be in the conversation for the next Manchester United manager. And
by the weekend, hopefully.
Yeah, and two teams that truly hate each other, that haven't played each other for a couple of years, with one seemingly in the ascendancy and one a bit of a downward traj. Back to the Premier League now, and to Sam's favourite market, booking points. So we're looking at Burnley against Everton. It is the return of the Tighe as he goes back to Turf Moor. Booking points here: 10 points for a yellow card, 25 points for a red card. And the midpoint is 46, 44 to sell, 48 to buy. So if you're going over here, you want 5 yellows or 3 yellows and a red or other permutations. Lower, you need 4 yellows or fewer. Or maybe like just a red card would be right. Anthony Taylor on the whistle. 3, 2, 1.
Ah.
Hey.
On your own in the bookings market.
I got a text from Sam yesterday, or a WhatsApp, saying, does Anthony Taylor give a lot of cards? And I was like, have a look at the WhoScored ref stats page. And you looked and you went, yes, he does. And I said, yeah, he does.
Yeah, look who's found the ref page.
Yeah. Be careful, George.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Anthony Taylor this season in the Premier League, across 12 games, averages 5.08 yellows per game. Add in 2 reds. Burnley and Everton combined for an average of 23.25 fouls per game in the Premier League this season. Do I think Anthony Taylor can find 5 yellow cards in approximately 23 fouls? Hell yeah, I do.
And there's a needle here, right, as well?
Yeah, of course there is. Absolutely. I mean, these are 2 teams that really need something. Everton, for reasons beyond the players' control at least. Obviously, Sean Dyche is involved here, and it's a return to Turf Moor. He would, as much as he'll appear magnanimous in the press, he would love nothing more than to beat this team 4-0.
Especially given the complete shift in identity from his side as well.
And the fact that they're like not doing great outside of it. So yeah, I mean, he'll feel very vindicated if he walks out of here with the win. I think this has the potential to get very, very scrappy. Not just because Anthony Taylor's involved, but because of the needle and because of the game. So really, I mean, I'm the one justifying it, but come on, guys.
I think that neither of these teams are averaging high cards this season. I think with Everton in particular, when I watch them, it feels like it feels like the manager's fingerprints all over it, as if he has been like, lads, it is absolutely essential here that we keep our discipline because we're really up against it now. And I know that, again, it's kind of not really a stats-based selection, although having said that, they might average a lot of fouls, but Burnley and Everton definitely aren't amongst the highest in terms of the yellows and reds being shown, which I'm sure Jack will come on to. I also just think that Everton, I think this will be a low-scoring game despite Burnley's expansive play, and generally goals breed cards, and low-scoring affairs tend to see fewer. I also think Everton are just comfortably the better side, and again, it wouldn't be a massive surprise if they're kind of clearing this. So there's just...
Is Ashley Young fit?
Or is he suspended? But they've got a few, like...
He has 10 points.
Just a guy as well, basically gets booked most games that he plays 90 minutes in. Yeah. There's a couple of them. I just... 5 yellows, yellow cards across football this season across England are higher because of the new rules. And that even though some of the new kind of the stoppage time and stuff has fallen by the wayside, and I think the cards are starting to trend down a little bit, they're still higher.
Yeah.
It's quite it's a surprisingly high line. Like I always think some who maybe don't look at these markets often will be surprised how often there are no cards in games or one card in games.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a seller's market generally, and I'm happy to go lower.
Yeah, same. And you mentioned my instinct without looking at WhoScored.com stats is to say Everton must be quite high up, and their games must be quite high up. They're actually ranked 20th as far as their total booking points over the course of the season are concerned so far. Their games average 37.8 as far as booking points so far this season. Anthony Taylor's actually ranked 9th, which I think makes the point that we're used to seeing high amounts of cards, and that would normally be well up there. And now there's some real beauties that love getting the cards out, even more than that, which we actually thrive on. But
when Jack opens his laptop, like you get your home screen, it comes up alongside. It's just the WhoScored refs page.
Yes,
right,
it's a picture of his favourite ref.
Yeah.
So absolutely. But these two obviously met in November in the League Cup. 20 booking points in that one. The glory of the cup didn't bring out the feistiness of it. Burnley at home, their average is exactly 50 actually. 5 of 8 have seen 50 plus. Everton's average away, total average is 42.1, 50 plus in 3 of 7, but Merseyside derbies included in that, which you would suggest possibly be a bit of a...
What about Dyche derbies? You got any factors for that?
I've not had a Dyche derby yet. This is the first one, isn't it? So we'll see how it goes.
Well, apart from the one in the cup.
Apart from that, apart from on the cover 20, my memory's not what it used to be. Going back 30 seconds. So a couple of interesting stats. Taylor, say 12 Premier League games so far this season, 50 plus in 7 of 12. But he took Everton versus Luton this season, gave 1 yellow card. And he was at the Villa game against Everton where he actually gave 7 yellow cards. But interesting stat with Burnley, 19 league games he's taken for Burnley, and he's yet to show 5 or more cards in any of those 19 games.
How far does that go back?
2014.
That's mad.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
When Burnley were managed by
Sean Dyche.
Thank you very much.
I know,
Move on.
there we go, absolutely right.
Our case, Your Honour.
I know. His average in Burnley games is 22.6. So, and I say the majority of those are Sean
really
Dyche.
weird.
But it is very, very weird. So he does have some affinity for Burnley, or maybe it's for Sean Dyche.
You need to find out what's going on there.
Absolutely right. Not one shown 50 plus, yeah. So he's refereed Burnley versus Everton twice. Yes.
Go on.
Everton versus Burnley on Boxing Day 2019, and he showed
20.
no cards.
Wow.
What is going on?
Burnley
I'm really up against it
versus Everton.
He just winked at me. This is terrible news.
On the 5th of December 2020, he showed
None.
no cards.
You're joking.
Oh my God.
No, I don't like this now. I feel like variance has got to go the other way.
No.
This is going to be. This is now
this
going to be
is-
100. Oh, you spooked me.
Got some bookings to cash in here.
Because that can't. That's another one where like, it's small sample size. It's gonna. Yeah, I don't like it.
Okay.
You spooked me.
Change.
You, spooked, you managed to spook both of us. We picked different things.
Yeah,
That's good.
I've got a very, very good knack.
And you got a funny
You
old
see those
wink.
notes?
3 more games left on the card this weekend, higher or lower. Now we're looking at West Ham against Wolves. West Ham are the favourites here at home. Have a Sporting Index. The midpoint is 0.25. So going lower here will give you Wolves and a draw. Going higher will give you a West Ham win. West Ham licking their wounds after the defeat to Fulham. Right, higher or lower here, 0.25, 3, 2, 1. I'm on my own.
Yes, I'm with Jack.
This is it's annoying you didn't say that when you were with me. Has that happened yet?
Get your stats out.
If only had Wi-Fi.
Oh, the internet's down.
There you go. That's why paper's
Yeah,
good, isn't it?
that's why. Yeah, it's why. I mean, it's incredible. Your notes. West Ham against Wolves. Wolves have only won 2 games on the road this season. The most of their good work's been done at Molineux. I know that off the dome as well.
Yeah.
Whereas West Ham's home form against bottom half sides is pretty good. I think they've won 3 of 3 so far. And I'm always with these markets as well. Like what happened against Fulham is obviously going to spook the market a little bit, and I'm pretty happy normally to kind of ride those drifts to an extent where I'm not entirely sure that we have to panic too much against the West Ham side. They put in some pretty decent performances this season. When you basically look at the 2 sides on paper as well, I think West Ham have an advantage. Yeah, I mean, I know that Wolves have been really hard done by at times this season. Gary, if you're watching, I understand that. Like, I'm not saying that you haven't deserved more than you've got, especially from referees. And I think he's doing an amazing job there. But I think Wolves' home advantage here, only being like a quarter of a goal favourite, is a big surprise to me. I thought there'd be more in it than that, because that suggested a neutral venue. Possibly Wolves would even be fabs, which I can't get behind at all. So. With quite clear evidence that West Ham are better at home and that Wolves are not as good on the road, I'm happy to take the home win here. Sam?
Right, yeah. A couple of things that are setting off alarms for me. First of all, Wolves are definitely the type of team that cause West Ham a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So the sort of tactical matchup here, where West Ham are forced to basically break someone down.
Where West Ham are forced to have the ball.
Yeah, they really don't like this.
No.
Obviously, being at home against a lower half side, appreciate the stats may suggest they've been okay there, but Wolves are the type of team, and this is the type of situation where West Ham are going to struggle, I think. And then we come to the kicker here, which is West Ham's immediate post-Europa League form, which really spooks me. So they've played 5 games this season off the back of Europa League games. They'll play their 6th tonight as we record this. I'm going to it against Freiburg.
Exciting.
Off the back of Europa League so far this season, lost to Liverpool, okay, fine. Drew with Newcastle, lost to Everton, beat Forest, drew with Paris. Paris? Palace. Crystal Paris.
Crystal Paris Saint-Germain.
Drew with Palace. So 1 win out of 5.
Is there any correlation to the home and away games?
The internet's down, mate. I can't check that one. But they've got Freiburg at home on the
Also,
Thursday
you're going to
night.
get Jack doing more than wink at you when you mention games after long travels. This is
Interesting. Well, they're not travelling on the Thursday night.
No,
They've got Freiburg at home, but that's a really tough game, and they are going to need probably something from it. They don't necessarily need a win, but they need something from it. So just West Ham off the back of Europa League, West Ham in this kind of matchup against Wolves, the ultimate spoiler. I just didn't like it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think my side of it is partly down to that. I think that West Ham struggle when they have to play quite quickly. The squad isn't deep. Injuries have hit a little bit, and I just think that they might struggle because there will be some importance in the game tonight because they want to top the group, and therefore...
Isn't it weird, the whole style thing? Because if you look at their team, like if you take out David Moyes,
You can't take out David Moyes, mate, because that's the
No,
entire reason.
I know. But like, when you think that they've got... they've got Ward-Prowse, they've got Paquetá, they've got Kudus. Bowen's the obvious one who thrives playing against a high line.
Yes.
But like realistically, they've got technicians in midfield who shouldn't have an issue taking care of the football, and yet they seem to absolutely hate doing it. Is that just because David's there, being like, get rid of it?
Let's put David Moyes back in.
Yeah,
and
fine.
there we go. Right, so that's sorted.
Steve Bruce wants to manage Jack Grealish and Conor Hourihane. Like it's down to the manager ultimately, the style of football and the confidence in those situations. It's down to the manager.
It is, and I think they expended a lot of...
What happens if they get beat 7-0 tonight in the Europa? Moyes out?
Possibly.
No.
Mark Noble in.
Terry McKenna, I heard. So, we'll see anyone, please.
Yeah.
This season, 7 wins, 6 defeats, 3 draws. They've been quite inconsistent, West Ham. At home, 3 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats. So it's just a bit of anything. We're obviously getting both results on side here, which is a swinging factor. Gary Neal's done a great job. Hi, Gary, again. Obviously, he's done that sort of thing. So it's not a problem at all. Yeah. And I think both sides are pretty even. And as we've said already, that stylistically, this could be like the referee having the most possession in this game. Neither of these two particularly want it. So I've also found West Ham being a little bit susceptible at set pieces this season as well. They've not looked so solid there, which is quite unusual. 1 from Moyes' side, and 2 when you consider their personnel. I think Wolves will have a little bit of joy there.
Yeah, coming Craig Dawson, welcome to the party.
Well, there he is. Yeah, the big Dorse. Yeah, absolutely right. So, I think they could get some joy there, and they've got defensively. Wolves look quite solid, and they've also got a little bit of threat up front as well, which I think is enough for at least a draw in this one. Scrappy one, not much in it, and I'll take having 2 results on side, definitely.
Right, on to the big game in the Premier League. Obviously not quite as big a rivalry as Ipswich Norwich, but we do have Liverpool against Manchester United to keep us occupied on Sunday afternoon. Oxford Reading isn't a derby. It's just...
They just sing about it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. Apparently there was no singing on Tuesday night by either side, by either sets of fans. Liverpool, Manchester United on Sunday. We're looking at the Supremacy again, the Sporting Index. Liverpool favourites, unsurprisingly, and heavy favourites. 1.5 is the midpoint here, so 1.4 to sell. 1.6 to buy. So if you're going lower here, you get not only United to win, not only the draw, but also Liverpool winning by a solitary goal. You need Liverpool to win by 2 or more goals if you're going higher. Will Jurgen Klopp's side compound the misery on Erik ten Hag's after they were dumped out of Europe unceremoniously midweek? 3, 2, 1.
I'm so thankful.
House.
I was petrified.
Yeah, George does that.
It
Leads
just-
you down the garden path. But no.
Jeez, I mean,
Do you want a second, or do you want to go first?
Liverpool by 2. Like, it sounds obvious, but it's a low-scoring sport. Like, genuinely, backing a team, even this Man United team against this Liverpool team.
We've seen United in a low-scoring sport be dispatched by quite a couple of good teams in recent seasons.
I've also got these memories of me expecting Liverpool to beat Man United, comfortably, and then rocking up at Anfield and ruining the day and stuff like that.
I also have memories of Manchester United under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going up against Pep Guardiola's Manchester City and bafflingly consistently getting results.
Yeah, so it's dodgy, and like everything about this game does scream Liverpool win comfortably. That's why I put higher. Man United's injury list for a start is enough to give you that confidence, let alone the fact that Liverpool at home are basically perfect. They are the best attack. All the goal scoring numbers, all the underlying numbers would suggest that Liverpool are clearly one of the best, or if not the best attack in this league. And they're playing against a very wounded Man United team in a game that they would obviously love to win, because if they do, the conversation about Erik ten Hag carries on. It just gives me butterflies to just go with a 2-goal margin. I appreciate everything I just said supports that, but like it's a big margin. It's a big thing to back, in my opinion, in this sport.
It is, yeah. I mean, we should also mention, in case Jurgen is watching, that the fixture congestion for Liverpool is brutal coming into this, when they play on Thursday night and then play on Sunday, with United having played on Tuesday, so that doesn't help things for his side. But there's just a gap between these two teams.
Chasm.
I keep getting United wrong, to be fair. I mean, we saw obviously Bournemouth cover this margin and comfortably at Old Trafford last time, but I was very keen on Chelsea to go to Old Trafford and win that game, and United were comfortably the better side, I thought, in that. It was a really weird game between two poor sides, but I did think United were better, certainly defensively for the most part. But Liverpool are rightfully one of the title favourites right now. They are top of the league. They the way that the new signings have settled in at Liverpool, whether it's Szoboszlai or McAllister, whoever, has been so impressive. The one thing, I know that some fans would disagree, but I do think Endo has been a big weak link in possession. I think for a player playing that role, he often gets caught in areas that you don't necessarily want. We saw it against West Ham last time out, and that is a bit of a concern. Against Palace last time out. I do wonder if maybe Curtis Jones comes in for this one in order just to kind of keep hold of it a little bit better, which would be a positive in my view. But when you think of the firepower that Liverpool have, and I know this goes, we spoke about Ipswich Norwich earlier in derby games and how they can be cagey, but like for Liverpool, I think because the potential is there and it's been done before to really run up a score against United and to basically put them in their box with, they've got the rotating five of Salah, Núñez, Gakpo, Diaz, and Jota. Like, it's unbelievable what they've got in terms of firepower. I think they'll be able to do that if they turn up, as we know they might do.
Yeah, I agree. And they'll really, really want to, won't they? Let's face it, it's just there. And I think if you swapped Man United's name out for a mid-table side, given, I had a look on the Spreadex fixed odds for this one, and Man United are at 8.0 to win this. Now, that's a bigger price than Brentford when they went to Anfield, Everton when they went to Anfield, and West Ham when they went to Anfield.
Jeez.
So that's the kind of what the market thinks of this particular matchup right now. And it's only the fact that it is Manchester United that gets you to think, oh, if this was West Ham, you'd think, well, United, Liverpool are going to cover this comfortably, as they have done in 6 out of 7 home games this season. So they are relentless at home. And one thing you do know about them, they're not going to settle, are they? They are going to 7-0 last season, of course. We know that they'll want to just continually drive that home and say those injuries, they've got bad enough as it is. But Luke Shaw is, I think, definitely out, isn't he, with a hamstring? Harry Maguire, player of the month, of course, for November, very doubtful as well. So what they patch up in that area, and you consider you've got Salah and his record, which we'll come on to in a moment, so I won't go into that now. But they've just got lethal firepower. And what I go back to, and I've used this stat whenever I go against Man United when they're playing away against a better side, is they are atrocious when it comes to playing the better sides. away from home last season, they got 1 point against sides in the top 9. This season, they've beaten the lower ranked sides, but they've gone to Arsenal and lost, Tottenham and lost, and Newcastle and lost. And they were fortunate it was 1-0 against Newcastle in the last kind of away game against a big team. That could have been 3 or 4, couldn't it? So, and that's against a Newcastle side that are running on fumes, like we said. So it just screams that they haven't got the ability to go to these away games in recent seasons over the last, like, under Ten Hag, basically, and put up any kind of fight whatsoever. Played 11, won none, drawn 1, lost 10, scored 9, conceded 34. That's an average defeat of -2.27.
Wow. Expect this to be clipped up by United fans if and when they win at Anfield. Same game now, looking at Mo Salah's player goal minutes. Mohamed Salah's player goal minutes. This is the total accumulated minutes that he scores in the game. So if Salah was to score in the 2nd minute and the 72nd minute, it would make up 74, 2 plus 72. If he was just to score in the 5th minute, it would make up 5, or just in the 90th minute, it would make up 90. The midpoint here is through 39. So Sporting Index, 37 to sell, 41 to buy. Are we going higher or lower? We might all agree on this one as well. 3, 2, 1.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I've said it so often. Like, I think player goal minutes generally is a massive seller's market. And if you probably just sold every single player, you'd probably make money, I'd have thought. Yeah. But there is a time sometimes where you think, like he's going to play 90 minutes if he's fit, 100%. Yep. He's on penalties, 100%. Yep. So that alone is massive. He's also one of the best players in world football and their biggest goal threat in unbelievable form, and is a player that often scores in big games and often scores more than 1 goal in a game. There we go. Done.
Yep. There you go. And there's been a petition recently to rename Fergie time Yergie time, because Liverpool keep scoring late.
Love that.
So if Salah can take a penalty in the 90th minute, I'd be very grateful. I win.
To steal his hat-trick, yeah. Absolutely right. Yeah.
Yergie must be gutted that having so much time of injury time having to play, it must be really difficult for his players to recover.
Yes, I'm sure, of course, yeah. Terrible.
Indeed so. Thankfully, this one's not 12:30 on Saturday lunchtime.
Yes.
I thought, hell to pay.
Yeah. No disrespect, man.
Break it down. No, sorry, yeah. Salah, 12 goals in 12 appearances versus Manchester United, so it's safe to say that he enjoys playing against them. Scored in 7 of those 12 games, including all of the last 6. Those goals, minutes combined, came to 90, 77, 90, 133, 107, 82 and 149. So every single time that he scored against United, it's landed over this line and comfortably. Yeah, they're all generally late goals or multi-goals, and a combination of those. So he scored in 6 of Liverpool's 7 home games so far this season. 36, 55, 16, boo. 165, 77, 101. Didn't score in the last game. 4 out of 7 landed an average of 64.28 minutes this season at home at Anfield. And I say
it's a massive.
He should have a field day here, shouldn't he?
Also, just there's something to be said here for Liverpool. I appreciate we've just talked, and I have just mentioned the fact that they're one of the best attacks in the league. Underlying numbers say so. Goal scoring numbers say so. They've also struggled a little bit, I think, just creating against those deeper blocks for early parts of games. And I can remember quite a lot of Salah goals from this season where he's broken away late when the game has become a bit stretched. Take the Merseyside derby as the example against Everton. Actually, Mikalenko kind of locked him up for a long, long time. Salah ended up scoring twice, I think, in the end, because he scored a penalty very late on, and then he scored like a 94th minute counter-attack. And Liverpool almost need to kind of find a way to crack through. And then once the game becomes open again, Salah just has a field day, as you say. So, like, it doesn't necessarily happen early for him. It tends to happen later. And it's partially because Liverpool take a while to get into that position where he can really do his damage. So, again, this market really favours Salah as a higher, as a buy.
Yeah. He scores is likely to be late, to be fair, from what everything was said.
Yeah.
From one of the Premier League greats to another, Wayne Rooney's Birmingham face Leicester on the Monday Night Football. We're looking at total goal minutes here, so we're back in the Championship. So total goal minutes, a bit like player goal minutes, but it's the total time that goals are scored across a game, rather than just an individual player. Birmingham with a massive win in midweek, beating Cardiff 1-0. Leicester had a bit of a scare, 1-0 down at half-time against Millwall at home before coming back and winning the game 3-2. So both teams winning last time out. Lots of goals in the Leicester game, not that many in the Birmingham game. The total goal minutes line here is 139 as a midpoint. The Sporting Index, 134 to sell, 144 to buy. We'll be going higher or lower. 3, 2, 1.
I'm feeling you'd go lower.
Yeah, I just, even though I think Leicester at home at the moment are really starting to turn the screw from an attacking standpoint. Like we saw them beat Plymouth Argyle 4-0 a couple of games ago. We saw them put 3 past Millwall last night. But I know in that away game against West Brom last time on the road, there were 2 very late goals. But generally, I think Leicester are one of those sides, and we see it quite a lot happen with sides who are dominant in their leagues, where the home games are way more expansive because there's much more onus on the attacking side of the game. Whereas away from home, they are defensively really resolute, really solid. In that West Brom game, I think there were only 13 or 12 shots in the whole game, including block shots, which is unbelievably low. With Birmingham and Wayne Rooney, like that, it hasn't been a good start, despite the midweek win. In the goal where it was a 1-0 victory, like they're struggling to create consistent chances. They're not particularly good defensively, but they're not shipping goals necessarily either. This to me looks like a real case of Leicester getting ahead in the game and then looking to probably being unlikely to run riot against a side at home who are okay. I also, if you look at Leicester's defeats this season, they've lost they haven't lost many games, but they've been 1-0 defeats. They've gone behind fairly early and been unable to break a side down. And look for a bit like that might be what happened at Millwall yesterday before it all kind of unravelled a little bit. So there's precedent that if Leicester do drop points, it wouldn't necessarily be an end-to-end game. It would be one where their attacking threat maybe lacks a little bit. So it's not a particularly high or it's kind of a middling line, I would say. But Leicester's defensive record and their solidity at the back gives me a lot of belief that Birmingham will struggle to break them down. So therefore, I'm kind of looking at Leicester goal minutes in the main here. Why have you gone higher?
I find this one quite a tough one to call.
Yeah.
I thought that line, you're right, is that kind of teaser. And I just felt that Leicester are going to be too good. And I think they're going to beat Birmingham and have a little bit to spare. And therefore, I'm wanting the side with goals. And crunching a few of the numbers, it just was slightly on the higher side, though. Therefore, I've gone with it. The most comparable game, possibly, you would say at Rooney so far at home was the 2-2 draw with Ipswich. They obviously took a 2-goal lead, and then 2 late goals from Ipswich clawed that one back. 232 goal minutes in that particular one. I'm saying we'll have a repeat of that, but it would be nice for me, certainly, with that line that I've got there. 2 out of 4 of these home games, so it's a pick 'em really, isn't it? But the average is 122 across those games, so it's slightly under on that one, basically because of the 0-0 draw with Rotherham. But I don't think we can put Rotherham and Leicester in the same basket, can we? Really, to be fair. Leicester won 8 of 10 away.
I'm trying to. Championship teams.
There you go. Nice.
Thank you.
That is the right basket.
Yeah.
So
not for long.
You're right. Yeah, I think there could be a gap of
Yeah.
a couple of divisions. So yeah, across the season, Leicester away 6 of 10 have gone higher. The average is 153.2. That was the swinging factor for me in a game I think Leicester will win. So therefore, are we going to see the famous no fear Birmingham approach, or are they going to go, "Ooh, I'll take a point and go out with a 0-0"? How do you think Birmingham will approach it?
I think like they kind of approach every game. Like there'll be an element of pressing without being aggressively high press. They won't sit off or particularly deep, but at the same time they won't play a high line. Like they're one of those teams at the moment, Birmingham, where when you watch them, you're just not entirely sure what they are, and that wasn't the case under John Eustace. Like, in fairness to Rooney, like it's hard to come into a side, I think, doing well and overperforming mid-season and trying to implement your own style of play, especially when no fault of Rooney's. Like it was the owners who came out and said we're going to play a no fear style of play. So what does that mean? Am I now meant to send my players out just to like
goalkeeper up for the first corner?
Yeah, like do we just get on the ball and run? Like what does that mean? And it means that idiots like me spend my whole time being like, how's that no fear football going? Because it's nonsense.
Everything that I was going to say, Jack already said.
Fine. I mean, we're overrun anyway, so we can finish up.
Yep, that's fine.
Great, that's why we pay you the big bucks. So that brings this week's episode to a close. I didn't mention at the top of the show our records at the moment, and for some reason, Jack, you and I are both leading. We're together on 59%. Yeah. I've got no idea why you've been put top.
Goal difference.
As if. Dan, who counts the scores himself, is apparently third on 55%, and will be represented by Sam for this week, so we can look forward to that rising. And you guys at home, the oddschecker viewers on social media on 52%. So all 4 of us are beating the market at the moment, all over 50%. So strong performances all round. There is also a new customer offer in the description of this video. If you click on that, there is a Bet25 get 50 offer with Spreadex and Sporting Index for new customers only. T's and C's do apply. And remember that losses can exceed your initial deposit when it comes to spread betting. Make sure you check out Sporting Index and Spreadex for all your spread betting needs across sport, and oddschecker for your fixed odds markets there. Download the app and subscribe to the oddschecker YouTube channel. Also, make sure you check out WhoScored, not just for the refs page, but also for all of your stats across the games this weekend. Thank you to Jack. Thank you to Sam. We'll be back again next week. But in the meantime, enjoy all the football and please do ensure that you're gambling responsibly.